The sound of magboots echoed across Babylon Garrison Station like slow thunder. Each step was measured, heavy, and full of purpose. People stopped talking. Vendors pulled their goods off the walkway. Even the stray service bots turned their sensors away. Everyone knew that sound. It meant someone dangerous was moving through. The bounty hunter walked like a storm in armor. His suit was black and rough, made from parts of a dozen old designs. No decoration, no symbols, just function. His helmet visor reflected the pale station lights without showing a face. On his heads-up display, red text pulsed, "Target acquired." Around him, the crowded orbital market kept breathing. Voices in 12 languages, frying oil, hissing vents, but the sound seemed far away. He followed the signal until it stopped at a small fruit stall near the center of the concourse. She wasn't hiding. That was the first thing that made it strange. The woman had skin like soft violet glass and hair as pink as spun candy. She wore simple spacer clothes, but the way she moved told another story. Every step was light, like gravity was just a suggestion. Her eyes glowed faintly when she smiled at the fruit vendor. The scanner on his wrist beeped and then screamed in error before showing her name, Lyra Voss. Daughter of Varek Violin, Concord Authority Overseer. Wanted alive, 50,000 credits. Dead, 10. The warning line blinked in red. Extreme caution advised. Lyra picked up an earth apple, turned it in her hands, and smiled with childlike curiosity. When she placed it back down, her fingers had left small dents in the metal counter. The bounty hunter's voice came through the modulator, cold and flat. Move away from the stall. She didn't. Instead, she lifted 2 big green fruits, each the size of her head, and hugged them to her chest with a grin. Humans love fruit, right? Then I'm keeping mine. For one long second, silence. Then laughter exploded through the market. Recording drones buzzed in close to capture it. Someone clapped. The fruit seller turned red to purple. The hunter didn't laugh. He stepped closer. Crowds backed away. Mothers pulled children behind them. The hunter reached for his magnetic cuffs. Lyra only tilted her head. "You're late," she said softly. "I've been waiting." He didn't answer. The cuffs snapped shut around her wrists with a sharp crack. She didn't fight, just let him pull her forward. He kept his weapon ready, his body angled so his shield could deploy first if needed. They moved through the market toward the loading bay. The smell of cooked oil and ozone mixed in the air. Then, from the corner of his vision, a small shape moved. A child chasing a bright plastic ball rolling toward the open edge of the deck. The hunter saw it too late, but Lyra didn't. Her body blurred forward. One hand caught the boy's shirt. The other grabbed the safety rail. The metal folded like paper. Golden light burst from the anklets around her boots. The sound was a scream of pressure and energy. The rail dripped molten metal to the deck. The boy was safe. Lyra stared at her burned hand. Thin cracks of glowing white light traced her skin. "Without these," she said quietly, looking at the glowing bands on her ankles, "I'm not strong. I'm a disaster." The bounty hunter's voice stayed calm. "Walk." He sent a hidden medical ping for the child, added a silent credit tip to the family's account, and didn't say another word. They reached the docking ring, where his ship waited, a patchwork of old designs and new scars. The hull looked like it had survived too many wars. He pushed her through the airlock. Inside, lights flickered awake, revealing a small circular cabin that smelled faintly of oil and coffee. A floating drone about the size of a grapefruit drifted down from the ceiling. "Excellent capture, sir," it said in a crisp, polite tone. "Shall I prepare prisoner comforts or moral lectures first?" "Quiet, PIX," the hunter replied. Lyra looked around, touching the ship's console with fascination. "Old Earth tech," she whispered. "Pre-Concord. It should be in a museum." "It flies," he said. "So do bricks," she muttered with a smile. He removed his helmet. Brown hair, tired eyes, and a scar over one eyebrow. Lyra stared, pulse rising. The ship's lights flickered again. Somewhere in the far distance, a gate engine hummed in answer. PIX glitched for a moment, voice changing to a soft childlike tone. "If it's scary," it said, "count to 4. Lyra froze. "What did you just say?" "Unknown archive fragment," PIX replied. The hunter turned away, opening a tool case. Inside were not weapons, but resonance tuners, small instruments that hummed softly when touched. He placed one against her anklet. The metal sang like a bell. "Those aren't chains," he said quietly. They're limiters. Volume knobs. You weren't made to be trapped. Lyra's eyes widened. Then why am I wearing them? Because you don't trust yourself yet. Outside, Babylon Garrison kept spinning, full of noise and light. Inside the ship, silence stretched, until a dozen military beacons lit up the sky. The bounty had just doubled. The ship dropped out of slip space like a wounded animal. Panels flickered. Alarms coughed once, then gave up. Below them, the red planet called Rust turned slowly. Its surface a wasteland of broken mines and tired factories. A good place to disappear. The bounty hunter, now helmetless, guided the vessel through the polluted sky. His name, Cade Rowan, was etched into the corner of the cockpit glass, not by pride, but by habit. Beside him, Lyra Voss sat with her hands still cuffed, eyes wide with curiosity instead of fear. You always land in garbage? She asked. It's called stealth, Cade muttered. Trash hides everything. Rust's main port wasn't much of a city, just a cluster of shipping containers turned buildings. A neon motel flickered the words rooms, hot water maybe. The perfect hideout. Cade led her inside. The floor hummed weakly beneath his boots, the gravity generator stuttering like an old heart. He threw his bag on the bed, checked the locks twice, then sat on the creaky chair. Lyra tested her cuffs, the metal glowing faintly. You can take these off, she said. I'm not going to melt the room. Not yet, he said. Let's keep it that way. The air between them was thick with questions neither wanted to ask. Cade began fixing the flickering gravity unit under the floorboard. Sparks jumped across his gloves. His hands were steady, too steady for someone living on the run. Lyra watched him work. The tune he whistled was soft, for simple notes repeating. She frowned. I've heard that before. He didn't look up. A lot of people whistle. Not like that, she said. It sounds like a memory I shouldn't have. The gravity shifted suddenly, sending her floating half an inch off the floor. Cade caught a wire, twisted it with his pliers, and the floor dropped again. Lyra stumbled. He grabbed her arm to steady her. For a second, their faces were inches apart, his eyes a storm gray, hers a calm before lightning. You could say thank you, he said, letting go. You broke the floor first, she shot back. He almost smiled. Almost. The small floating drone, PIX, drifted in from the hall, projector blinking. Would you like refreshments or emotional tension diffused with humor? It asked. Mute, Cade ordered. PX dimmed, but stayed to watch like a curious ghost. Lyra's gaze fell to his tool set. Those devices, not for ship repairs, are they? He paused. Resonance tuners. They listen to structure, find weaknesses, fix them, or break them. Like what you did to my anklets. He nodded slowly. They respond to sound. To harmony. You just don't know how to hear yourself yet. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. You sound like a philosopher pretending to be a mechanic. Philosophers don't carry plasma scars. He rolled up his sleeve, showing faint lines that glowed faintly blue under the motel light. Burns from old resonance overloads. Every tune leaves a mark. Her expression softened. You saved me once, didn't you? He froze. What makes you think that? I remember fire, she whispered. A mask. A hand pulling me out of the smoke. Someone told me to follow the sound, not the light. Cade's breath caught, barely audible. That was a long time ago. Her cuffs flickered faintly. You were there, she said, voice small now. You gave me these. He sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. I built them. They were never meant to cage you, Lyra. They were meant to keep you alive. Alive or controlled? He looked up then, tired eyes meeting her sharp violet ones. I didn't want you to burn the galaxy down before you learned to hold it. The silence that followed was fragile, filled only by the hum of the gravity generator and the distant metallic wind outside. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed. You don't sound like a bounty hunter, she said finally. I'm not, Cade answered. Not anymore. The ship's comms suddenly chirped. A broadcast crackled through, Varek Violent's cold voice cutting across frequencies. My daughter has been taken by terrorists. Harbor them, and your world burns. Lyra's face turned pale. Cade's jaw tightened. PX spoke softly, almost human this time. Sir, 3 Concord patrols inbound. Time to intercept, for minutes. Cade stood, picking up his old helmet. Then we leave now. Lyra rose too. And go where? He glanced at her, eyes steady. Anywhere gravity still listens to music. Outside, engines roared to life. The ship lifted from the dusty landing pad, rising through the storm. In the quiet between thunder and stars, Lyra asked the question that would change everything. Who are you really, Cade Rowan? His answer came low and honest. The man who taught metal how to sing and forgot how to stop. The next morning, the galaxy was laughing. Across 3 systems, the same clip replayed in endless loops. The violet alien girl hugging 2 giant fruits and declaring with perfect sincerity, "I know humans love these, so I'm keeping mine." It was funny, innocent, and impossible to ignore. Within 12 hours, half the frontier stations were selling "Keep Your Fruit-Free" shirts. Lyra Voss had become an icon, a rebel without meaning to be one. Cade Rowan, the man who was supposed to deliver her to the Concord Authority, was now watching her face flash on news feeds inside every cafe, repair bay, and docking ring from here to Mars Belt. He rubbed a tired hand across his jaw. "We're officially famous." "That's bad." PX floated in lazy circles around his head, projecting hashtags in bright hollow text. Hashtag fruit freedom, hashtag melons, and metal, hashtag violet revolution. Lyra laughed, feet kicked up on the control console. "You're welcome. Every uprising starts with a snack." "This isn't funny," he said, checking scanners. "Half the Concord fleet is monitoring these feeds. They'll triangulate us through memes." She raised an eyebrow. "Through memes? They've done worse." They touched down at Station Kaleidos, an old trade hub floating between asteroid belts. The place was half market, half circus, glowing ads, droning speakers, and a smell of fried protein that clung to everything. The moment Lyra stepped out, the crowd recognized her. Gasps first, then laughter, then applause. Drones zipped over like flies to honey. "Is that really her?" someone shouted. "The fruit girl." Lyra tried to shrink back, but the crowd pressed closer. A vendor thrust a glowing sign in her face that read, "Keep your melons safe." She sighed. Unbelievable. Cade reached for his pistol. "Keep your hood up and move." "Relax," she said, forcing a smile. "They don't want to kill us. They just want selfies." She wasn't wrong. Dozens of strangers lined up to take pictures. One even handed her a metal tablet and begged, "Please, dint this. I want proof you're real." Lyra hesitated, then pressed her fingers lightly against it. The tablet sank in like soft clay. The crowd cheered. Cade muttered under his breath, "You just created a black market for autographs." PX bobbed excitedly. "Sir, viral potential has reached unsustainable levels of irony." "Shut up, PIX." They ducked through the cheering mob and slipped into a narrow side corridor that smelled of engine grease. Lyra was still laughing. "Come on, admit it. You enjoyed that." He scowled. "You turned a bounty hunt into a parade." "Into a movement," she corrected. "There's a difference." They stopped at a small fruit stall in the alley. The vendor, an old man with a tan like cracked leather, blinked as they approached. "You two together?" "Unfortunately," Cade said. Lyra smiled sweetly. "We'll take 2 melons." The vendor hesitated, then whispered, "Are you her?" "The fruit girl." She sighed. "Apparently." He grinned and handed her the fruits for free. For the hero of free snacks everywhere. Cade tossed him some credits anyway. "Nothing's free." Lyra bit into one of the fruits. The expression on her face was instant disgust. "Why do humans eat this? It tastes like disappointment." "Acquired taste," Cade said, scanning exits. "You say that a lot," she said, wiping juice from her chin. "Maybe you're the acquired taste. Or maybe I just don't like chaos." PX buzzed between them. "Correction, sir, you attract chaos." The moment almost felt normal. 2 fugitives sharing bad fruit in a back alley market. But normal didn't last. Cade's wristpad blinked red. "Patrol signatures, incoming." He tossed the fruit aside. "We're done here." Lyra leaned on the counter, unbothered. "So serious all the time. You know, if you smiled once, the galaxy might not think you're hunting everyone." "Smiling gets you killed," he replied, pulling her toward the exit. The crowd outside spotted them again. The cheering grew louder. Someone started chanting, "Fruit and freedom." Dozens joined in. Cade groaned. "Perfect. You're a revolution now." Lyra laughed as they sprinted toward the hangar. "You started it. I arrested you and gave me a platform," she teased, ducking under his arm as a drone swooped by. "Face it, Cade. We're trending." They reached the ship. Alarms screamed in the distance. Concord interceptors dropping out of orbit. PIX hovered by the hatch. Incoming pursuit in 90 seconds. I recommend heroic escape music. Cade slammed the door shut. Play static. Engines roared. The ship rose through the clouds, leaving the crowd chanting below, their signs glowing in pink and gold. Lyra stared out the viewport, voice soft now. Do you ever wonder why they laugh instead of fear? Cade looked at her reflection in the glass. Violet skin, glowing eyes, power chained behind gold bands. Because they don't know what you really are, he said quietly. And maybe that's a good thing. Outside, the stars swallowed the ship whole. Inside, the world's strangest revolution had just begun. The planet Frostvale wasn't on any Concord chart. It was a forgotten mining moon, frozen, cracked, and full of echoes. The ship descended through silver storms, its hull groaning under the pressure of the cold. When they landed, the ice beneath them sang faintly, like a buried choir humming through glass. Cade powered down the engines and checked his scanner. No transmissions, no life signs, except 2 fugitives and 1 annoying drone. Lyra said, smirking at PIX. PIX floated lower, sounding offended. For the record, I am a treasured companion, not a fugitive. The airlock opened with a hiss, releasing them into a blinding white world. Shards of ice glittered like stars on the ground. The silence here was different. It didn't feel empty. It felt listening. Lyra's breath fogged the air as they walked toward the old mining tunnels. Her boots crunched on the frost. You know, she said, you're terrible company for a man trying to save the galaxy. Cade didn't look back. You talk too much for someone who's supposed to be in hiding. That's because silence feels like judgment. He stopped at the tunnel entrance, flashlight cutting through the dark. You think the universe cares enough to judge you? No, she said quietly. But you do. The tunnels stretched deep beneath the ice. Their footsteps echoed back in strange harmonies. The deeper they went, the more the air shimmered with faint energy. Lyra's limiters began to hum softly, reacting to something buried in the walls. She stumbled. The cuffs flared gold, then blue. They're resisting me, she gasped. It's like walking with my power in a cage. Stop fighting them, Cade said, catching her arm. You say that like you've tried it. He hesitated, then peeled off his glove. His right hand was scarred and burned, the skin threaded with faint metallic veins. Every time I tune something powerful, I take a bit of it with me. Lyra's eyes widened. Your hand, it's singing. He smiled faintly. It hurts more than it sounds. They continued in silence until the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling arched high, carved by forgotten machines. Crystals glowed with dim blue light, reflecting their shadows across the walls. This place feels alive, Lyra whispered. It's not alive, Cade said. It's resonant. Every sound here repeats forever. Be careful what you say, it might come back louder. A faint click echoed from the shadows. Then another. Then 12. Cade drew his sidearm and shoved Lyra behind an ice column. Through the frost, figures appeared. Concord troopers, their armor white and seamless, weapons glowing cold blue. They had found them. 12, Cade muttered. Could have been worse. How? Lyra hissed. Could have been 13. She gave him a glare sharp enough to cut steel. What now? He holstered the gun. Something stupid. Finally, she said. You're learning from me. He pulled a small strip of cloth from his pocket, an old blindfold, worn thin. When I whistle, you hum. That's not a plan, she said. It's harmony, he replied. Before she could argue, he tied the cloth gently around her eyes. Trust me. The first trooper shouted, surrender or. Cade whistled. For notes. Simple. Soft. Lyra hesitated, then hummed. The sound rippled through the ice. The walls glowed faintly, resonating with them. Then the world changed. Sound became shape. They could see the soldiers through vibrations, the rhythm of their steps, the hum of their weapons, the fear in their breath. Cade moved like he was dancing. His fingers brushed the ice, drawing lines of vibration that collided with the soldiers' gear. Their weapons screamed, the metal bending under invisible pressure. One dropped his rifle as it melted at the grip. Another's armor locked tight, freezing him mid-step. Lyra's humming deepened. The tunnel walls pulsed with light. Together, they turned noise into power. When the last soldier fled into the dark, only the echo of their strange duet remained. Lyra pulled off the blindfold, panting. You're insane. Cade smiled, breathless. I prefer creative. PIX floated down from above, recording everything. Sir, You both just weaponized sound. I am legally required to say that was awesome. Lyra sank against the icy wall, laughing softly. You turned a battlefield into a concert. Cade sat beside her, resting his back against the frozen rock. Sometimes the only way to survive is to change the rhythm. She looked at him, a rare gentleness in her tone. Then keep playing, Ghost Tuner. I'll try to follow the beat. Outside, a storm howled across the frozen plains, but deep in the tunnels, harmony still lingered, an echo of trust, growing louder with every breath. The storm above Frostvale didn't end. It simply moved sideways. Cade's ship cut through the clouds like a scar, chasing the edge of night. Inside, the silence between him and Lyra felt heavier than gravity. They'd escaped the ambush, but not the consequences. Every Concord scanner in the sector was searching for the Melody fugitives, now, a phrase Lyra found hilarious, and Cade found exhausting. Pix hovered over the dashboard, voice unusually cautious. Sir, the pursuit fleets have expanded. There are now reward posters featuring interpretive art. Lyra smirked. How bad? Pix projected a hollow. A cartoon version of her. Eyes too big, grin too bright, holding two glowing melons like trophies. Cade groaned. We're memes again. Correction, Pix said. You are background material. The fandom calls you the grumpy mechanic boyfriend. Delete yourself, Cade muttered. They dropped out of orbit near a mining hub that hung like rusted jewelry between two moons. Cade set the ship down beside an abandoned fuel station. The engine sighed, finally quiet. Lyra leaned against the console. So what's next? Another ice cave? Another near-death jam session? Next, Cade said, we hide. She looked unimpressed. You don't hide, Cade. You brood loudly in different locations. He gave her a look, then stepped outside to refuel manually. The air here shimmered with static. The moons above glowed red, reflecting off Lyra's violet skin through the viewport. She followed him out, curiosity tugging harder than fear. The station was empty except for a broken vending bot and a few scattered crates. Someone had spray painted on the wall in shaky letters. Keep your fruit free. Lyra chuckled. Our movement lives on. Don't encourage it, Cade warned. A sound interrupted them, the mechanical hum of surveillance drones. 3 of them dropped out of the clouds, lenses glowing blue. Pix's alarm blared. Unauthorized recon units detected. Cade drew his blaster and shot one midair. The other 2 spun, transmitting live feeds. Lyra, with a sigh, lifted her hand. The drones vibrated violently, their metal twisting into spirals before collapsing like origami. Problem solved, she said. Cade stared at the wreckage. You just told half the galaxy where we are. They already know, she said quietly. They're watching everything anyway. The 3rd drone, the one he'd hit, flickered back to life. Its cracked lens projected a faint hollow, a palace hallway burning. Lyra froze. That's my home. The recording continued. Flames. Smoke. A young girl's scream. Then a masked figure appearing through the fire, holding a child's hand. Run to the sound, not the light. Cade's pulse stuttered. Where did you get this? Px answered softly, from the drone's archive. It was encrypted under Concord military files. Lyra turned to Cade, realization dawning like sunrise through tears. It was you. He didn't deny it. I pulled you out. You were 10. You nearly leveled the palace crying. You built my limiters, she said. You saved you from yourself, he finished, voice low. And then your father used that gift to chain you. Lyra stepped back, eyes bright with fury and heartbreak. You made me a prisoner. I made you safe, he said. You think I liked watching them turn safety into control? The words hung in the freezing air. Neither spoke for a long time. Px finally broke the silence. Incoming transmission, it whispered. A hologram flared to life, Varek Violin. Older, harder, the kind of man whose voice could silence rooms. My daughter has been taken by terrorists, he said coldly. Their leader, the traitor called the Ghost Tuner, is to be executed on sight. Lyra's breath hitched. Ghost Tuner, she whispered. That's what they called the man who could make metals sing. Cade turned away, pulling his gloves back on. Names stick. Music doesn't. Pix beeped softly. Sir, 3 Concord fighters approaching. Time to intercept. 1 minute. Lyra squared her shoulders. Then maybe it's time to stop running. Cade's head snapped up. What are you doing? Making noise, she said, stepping outside. Her anklets glowed gold, light spilling into the cold air. She raised both hands, humming softly. The sound turned into vibration, vibration into pressure. The sky cracked open, a sound wave so strong it shattered every drone within miles. When the echo faded, she looked at Kate. "If I'm going to be a monster," she said, voice shaking, "I'll choose what kind." Kate stared at her, proud, terrified, and utterly defeated. "You're not a monster, Lyra. You're the song that breaks the silence." Above them, the Concorde ships turned in retreat. The storm swallowed their trail, but not the legend that had just been born, the ghost tuner and the violet star. The galaxy was no longer laughing. For weeks, the Fruit Girl meme had been harmless fun, a distraction in the endless grind of interstellar politics. But then the Concorde sensors caught something they couldn't explain. A hum. A frequency buried inside every broadcast that featured Lyra Voss. It spread through signals, through walls, through dreams. Cade called it resonance drift. PX called it haunting. The Concorde called it war. Now, deep in a hidden system where stars burned blue, white, and wrong, the bounty hunter's patch ship floated before a massive black ring. The kind of thing ancient civilizations left behind for younger ones to fear. A resonance gate. It shimmered, pulsing faintly in rhythm with Lyra's heartbeat. Cade stood at the viewport, jaw tight. "It's reacting to you." Lyra stared at it, her reflection split by starlight. "It feels like it's listening." PIX hovered nervously. "Correction, it's more than listening. It's answering." Lyra turned to Cade. "This is what my father was hiding, isn't it? The reason he wanted me contained." Cade didn't answer. He didn't have to. The gate hummed again, louder this time. Every piece of metal in the ship vibrated with the same note. The lights dimmed, screens glitched, and the ship's old bones seemed to breathe. "Shut down power," Cade ordered. "Too late," PIX replied. "It's already inside the grid." Lyra gripped the console. Inside or awake. The hologram flickered, and suddenly Varek Violent appeared on every screen. His voice was thin, shaken, desperate. The voice of a man who had run out of orders to give. "Lyra, if you can hear this, don't approach the gate. It isn't a weapon. It's a memory. A door between dimensions that should never have been opened." Cade's eyes narrowed. "Opened by who?" Varek looked older than his years. "Your mother. She thought she could control it. The day she died, she tried to send something back. The recording glitched, fire, screams, and a woman of violet light disappearing in a wave of energy. She succeeded, but part of it stayed." Lyra stepped closer to the hologram, voice trembling. "Part of it inside me." The gate pulsed harder. The entire ship shook. PX shouted warnings about gravitational distortion, but no one listened. Cade grabbed his toolkit, yanking out a pair of resonance tuners. "We stabilize her, or we're done." "You can't tune a dimension," PX cried. "Watch me." Lyra stood at the center of the cabin, hands trembling. Her limiters glowed white-hot, runes flickering like burning script. "Cade, it's calling me. It's showing me home." He moved to her, eyes sharp. "Home isn't in there. Home is here." Her voice broke. "My mother's in there." He didn't flinch. So is everything she tried to destroy. The deck lurched violently. Gravity failed. They hung in midair as the ship was drawn toward the gate. Starlight bent, colors twisting into sounds. Cade jammed his tuners into the ship's frame and started to play. Yes, play. The tools sang, each tone slicing through chaos, finding frequencies between madness and math. Lyra screamed as her power surged outward, her body becoming a silhouette of pure resonance. "Cade, it's too much." PX wailed. "Then I'll match it," Cade gritted out. "Just keep the rhythm." He whistled 4 notes. Always 4. The sound that had pulled her out of fire 17 years ago. Lyra's breathing slowed. Her scream turned into a note. High, clear, infinite. The gate responded, its surface rippling like water under moonlight. For a moment, time itself seemed to hesitate. From within the shimmering void came a voice, faint, kind, and heartbreakingly familiar. "Little star." Lyra's eyes filled with light. "Mom." Cade reached for her arm, but his hand passed through her as if she were both there and not. "Lyra, stay with me." Her mother's echo smiled. "I held the door too long. You don't have to. Close it with love, not fear." Tears rolled down Lyra's glowing cheeks. "I can't do it alone." "You never were alone," the echo whispered. Cade pressed his tuner to her ankle. You heard her, star. Time to end the song. Together, they released one final note. A perfect harmony of machine and soul, love and loss. The gate rippled once and closed. Silence. The ship drifted in the dark. The stars realigned, calm once more. Lyra collapsed into Cade's arms, unconscious but alive. PX floated closer, voice hushed. Sir, what just happened? Cade exhaled, eyes on the dead gate. She didn't destroy it, he said softly. She healed it. Outside, the vast black ring lay still. For the first time in centuries, the gate dreamed peacefully. The stars had never been so quiet. Cade Rowan sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the dormant resonance gate floating outside like a dead god. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy wasn't humming, it was listening. Every scanner said the same thing. The gate was sealed, stable, and silent. Behind him, Lyra Voss slept in the med chair. Her breathing was steady now, her violet skin glowing faintly, like she carried starlight under her skin. The limiters at her ankles, once golden cages, were now dull silver rings, their symbols melted into soft curves. Not prison. Protection. PIX hovered nearby, voice gentle for once. Her vitals are steady, sir. Power readings off the charts, but stable. She's, how do humans say it? In tune. Cade leaned back, exhaustion carving lines into his face. She should have burned out. Nobody channels that much energy and walks away. PX beeped. Maybe she didn't walk away. Maybe she redefined walking. He would have laughed if he weren't so tired. When Lyra finally stirred, her voice came soft, fragile. Is it over? He turned toward her. The gate's quiet. The Concorde's quiet. That's as over as things get. She blinked, remembering the chaos, the hum, her mother's echo, the final note that nearly broke her apart. I saw her, she whispered. Not an illusion. She was inside the light. She said to close it with love. Cade smiled faintly. Sounds like good advice. Bit late, but still. PJX projected a small hollow of the galaxy. Thousands of faint signals glimmered like dust. The resonance wave U2 created traveled across 70 systems. Every dormant gate just stopped humming. You didn't destroy anything. You calmed it. Lyra sat up slowly. So we won. Cade shrugged. I don't think peace works like that. We just changed the song. Outside, the gate shimmered faintly, once. Then stilled. Weeks passed. The Concorde Authority rebuilt its fleets, but the tone had shifted. People weren't chanting about rebellion anymore. They were whispering about harmony. The Violet Star and the Ghost Tuner. The two who turned destruction into music. The first Resonance Academy opened on a quiet moon near the fringe. It wasn't a palace or a military base, just a cluster of domes filled with sound. Children born with strange powers came from all over, learning control through rhythm, through breath, through silence. Lyra taught the classes herself. Power, she told her students, isn't about how loud you can scream. It's about how well you can listen. Cade repaired old training devices between lessons, grease under his nails, and a smile he didn't admit to. PIX floated around like a proud parent, recording everything for future generations of misfits. Sometimes, at night, Cade would find Lyra standing alone on the balcony of the Academy dome, staring at the stars. They're quieter now, she would say. He'd lean beside her, hands in pockets. Good quiet or bad quiet. She'd smile a little. Depends who's listening. One night, she reached down and touched her ankle. The limiters shimmered faintly, still bound. I could remove them now. I think I'm ready. He looked at her carefully. Then why haven't you? She hesitated. Because freedom's only real when you choose it. He nodded. Then keep them, for now. Not as chains. As reminders. She laughed softly. You always sound like you're fixing a machine when you talk about feelings. I am fixing something, he said. Just happens to be you. She gave him a look. And who fixes you? PIX's voice floated from the doorway. Statistically speaking, no one. Cade threw a wrench. Mute, PX. Years later, travelers passing through that sector would swear they heard something strange near the old Frostvale gate. Not static. Not energy readings. Music. A low hum, soft and steady, like a heartbeat between galaxies. Some said it was just interference from the Academy's transmitters. Others said it was her mother's voice, still keeping the rhythm. Cade never believed in ghosts, but sometimes when he closed his eyes, he could still hear that final note. the one they'd created together, the sound of choice, of peace, of everything fragile yet unbreakable about being human. He stood once more on the balcony beside Lyra, the wind carrying faint echoes of laughter from the students below. The universe felt large again, but not empty. "Do you ever think," Lyra said quietly, "that maybe the gates weren't doors out there? Maybe they were doors inward? To remind us what's inside us all along." Cade reached for her hand, rough fingers brushing soft light. "Then maybe," he said, "the galaxy just learned how to listen." And somewhere far away, among sleeping stars and sealed gates, the universe answered with a whisper, a song beyond silence.